So in this video, I want to talk about one of the sample example of SAT math problem. And the question is, in the triangle, the sine of x degrees is 0.6. And what is cosine of y degrees? There is x degrees and y degrees here. And for solution of this question, before we solve this question, we need to think about in terms of the properties of sine and a cosine to solve this. And in order to do that, there is a decimal, which means we need to convert that into a fractions. The reason is because in order to have a sine or a cosine, we are using size. But if we just think about in terms of the decimal, it is hard to find a size. So that's why we need to know how to convert decimal to fractions. So before we solve for this question, let's just review how to memorize sine and cosine and tangent. The way to memorize it is by using its first initial letters, which means for a cosine, we use C for it. And for sine, we use S for it. And for a tangent, we use T for it. And I'll start from the cosine. And for cosine, we always start from the
you get the
C.
fragrance and ambience of a candle
C
without
for
the flame.
cosine, it
So
always
when there's
should
wind
mirror
or
a
even a toddler
central
on a
angle.
mission,
The
there
central
are zero
angles
worries.
are
Every touch
important.
gives you fragrance
The
and glow
way
for up to
that it is
4 hours.
located.
Airwick, home is
So
in
for
the air.
cosine, the C always starts from the H, which is hypotenuse, and it goes all the way down to the A. And this is C for initial value of cosine. So we need to remember that the starting line should be a baseline, which means we will going to be a denominator if we show it into a fraction. So we're going to be H. And the ending line will going to be a numerator, which means the ending line will going to be numerator, which is A. And this was C for the initial value of cosine. It always starts from the H, which is hypotenuse, and it goes all the way down to the base. And let's talk about in terms of a sine. And for sine, it also starts from H. So this is the way we write S for its initial value of sine. It always starts from the H, which is hypotenuse, and it goes all the way down to the B. And we also remember that the starting line will be a denominator H and numerator the ending line, which is B. And let's think about in terms of the tangent. So for tangent, we use T for it, and for sine, we used S for it. And for tangent, it always starts from the A, which is a common line with the C, and it goes all the way up to the B. So the starting line denominator, which is A, and the numerator B, which is a ending line. And all you have to remember is that we also care about the locations of a central angle. And C, which is the initial value of cosine, we always start from the H, which is hypotenuse, and it goes all the way down to the A. And for sine, we use S for the initial value of sine, and it goes all the way up, starting from the hypotenuse, which is H, and it goes all the way down to the B. And for tangent, it always starts from an A, which is a common line with a cosine C, and it goes all the way up to the B. Let's go to another example where the central angle location is different. As we have told, the cosine we use C for it, and it should always locate near a central angle, which means it always starts from the H, which is hypotenuse, and it goes all the way down to the B. So if it's showing in a fraction, it will going to be denominator starting line, which is H, and in the numerator ending line, which is B. Let's think about in terms of sine, and this was C for cosine initial value. And for sine, it always starts from the H, which is hypotenuse, and it goes all the way down to the A. So the starting line will be the denominator, and in the numerator, the ending line, which is A. And for a tangent, tangent always starts from a line. We use t for the initial value, and it always starts from a b, which is a common line with a cosine c, and it goes all the way up to the a. So it will going to be the starting line, which is b, and the numerator, the ending line, which is a. So all you have to remember is that we use c for initial value of cosine, and it starts always from a hypotenuse, and it goes all the way down to the b. And for sine, it always starts from the h, which is hypotenuse. This we use s for initial value of sine, and it goes all the way up, and it goes all the way down to the a. And for tangent, it always starts from a baseline, which is b in this case. It always should be very common, the line with the cosine c. And it goes all the way up to the a. So right now, we can write our whole expression, all our information down. And we know that the sine of x degrees is 0.6. So the sine of x degrees is same thing with 0.6. The thing that we need to know is that the central angle is right now turned to x degrees because we're trying to find the value of sine of x. So our central angle right now is x degrees, and if we the sine of it, it becomes 0.6. But we need to convert this decimal into a fraction. The reason is because we are trying to find the size, but if it's just a decimal, it's hard to find this. So we know that 0.6 is the same thing with 6 over 10. This is the same thing. And now we can just simplify. And we know that if it is sine of x, as we learned here, it is the same case where the central angle is right over here. The sine of x starts from the hypotenuse. It goes all the way down. This is s for sine. And now we can know that the starting line will be the decimal, which means the 10 is a hypotenuse of our right triangle. And for this angle right over here, the ending line will gonna be numerator, which means this line right over here will gonna be 6. And now we can find the value of the cosine of y degrees. So cosine of y degrees from here. But if you look at our cosine of y degrees, for cosine y degrees, which means the central angle turning into a y degrees. Whatever degree is in the cosine or sine or tangent inside the parentheses will gonna be central angle. But we know that the cosine of this y degrees is exactly the same thing. That cosine, we write c for it, and it always starts from the hypotenuse, and it goes all the way down to the baseline. So we can see that our cosine of y degrees, our central angle is y degrees, and the c is for initial value of cosine. The starting line will be a denominator, which means the denominator is 10, and in the numerator will going to be a ending line, which is 6 in this case. So our answer for cosine of y degrees is same thing with 6 over 10, which is exactly same thing with sine of x. So we can write our answer down that cosine of y degrees is exactly same thing with 6 over 10. And what we did is that in the step 1, we talked about how to memorize sine, cosine, and tangent. For c, we use cosine for it, and it always starts from the hypotenuse, and it goes all the way down, and it always should be near a central angle. And for sine, it always starts from a hypotenuse, and it goes all the way down, and we use s for that initial value. And for tangent, we use t for the initial value of tangent. It always starts from a baseline, which share a common with a c, which is a cosine, and it goes all the way up. And also the thing that we need to remember is that we use a property of a sine and a cosine, but we need to remember that we had to convert a 0.6 into a fraction. The reason is because we need to find a value of the value of a size in order to use a properties of trigonometric function. But if it's just a decimal, it's hard to find a size. So that's why we converted that into a fractions.